This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
We are honored to have Fred Conforti joining us here. He's the CEO of Conforti Consulting and excited that he's joining us here live today on the show. We're going to get to know a lot about what they specialize in, really helping CEOs and owners of companies and their staffs uncover lots of opportunities and also shortcomings that their company has. But obviously, he's here with sales training, course reductions, organizational restructuring, and so much more. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
Hi, Jill. Fine. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, nice to have you. Where are you hailing from specifically?
Well, I have two places. One is in Illinois, Glen Ellen, and the other is in Naples, Florida. Right now,
Wow.
I'm in my Illinois office.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited that you're here. So I was reading, I got to, search. Very successful and very honored to have you here. I want to get to know, of course, the work that you're doing. And also we're going to dive into your background. So just a quick overview about, what Conforti Consulting is and, who it can benefit.
Forty Consulting is a company that specializes in helping companies take care of and garner opportunities while they're also eliminating shortcomings or weaknesses. And I work directly with the heads of the companies, whether it's the CEO, the president, the owner, to start the process. And then we go from there to the staffs and then the people in the company. So it's an effort that combines the management of the company with the ownership of the company, with my expertise to delve into what opportunities are there for the company to take advantage of and what problems are they dealing with? And our motto is what we want to do is to make every company the best it can be.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for doing that and really helping so many business owners all over. And you said decades of consulting. Companies. We're going to talk about some of the weaknesses that we see over and over again. And before we do that, I want to get to know you a little bit. Tell me where you're from. Tell me your background. How you got into this field. It's always important to find out about the owner, of course.
Well, this is a probably a very long story, but I started out as an engineer, worked for Motorola, then I went to work for Honeywell, and then I was fortunately hired by a person named Neeson Harris, who owned Pitway Corporation, to run one of his companies that he had just bought, which was BRK Electronics. I ran BRK Electronics for decades, and while doing that, we coined the term First Alert. First Alert was not a name or a
Oh,
business
yeah.
or a company until we named it, but it was part of BRK Electronics and part of Pitway Corporation. We ran that for
Wow.
decades, sold it. Then we started another company called System Sensor, added a few purchases of other companies and added them. We added Notifier, Firelight, FCI, and that we turned into a very big opportunity. The company started out as a $5 million product line, and 16 years later, we sold it for over $1 billion.
Impressive. Oh my goodness. Congrats.
Thank you.
Huh.
After that, after that,
And
I
there's
took
more.
part of, yeah, there's more. There's a long story
I
here.
know.
Uh, After that, I took part of the company that we sold and turned it into another company called Wireless Access, which was a wireless access control company. It's the first of its kind. It was a leader of its industry because it was the first. And after 5 years, I sold that company to Ingersoll Rand.
Mm-hmm.
Ingersoll Rand wanted me to consult with them after the sale, which I did for 3 years. I liked the consulting part so much that I decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my career. And that's what I've been doing for the last several years.
Well, congratulations on a job well done, and all the success. And you're very modest, so humble, so down to earth. let's get started and chat a little more about the process, right? So you mentioned, you know, you've been doing this for so long. So you are seeing time and time again some of the same weaknesses show up over and over again. Do you want to explain that a little to us?
Yeah, the companies that I've worked with, which are dozens and dozens, always seem to have the same weakness. And the major weakness these companies have, and these are mid-sized companies, not the largest companies and not startups, but the mid-sized companies, they typically do not have a plan that they're working to. And by not having a plan, they don't know where they're going to go, how they're going to get there, and who's going to help them do that. So,
Hmm.
probably the biggest shortcoming I find in dealing with companies is the lack of a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so funny because you've been doing this time and time. Now, does it matter what type of business? We're talking the weaknesses are usually the same no matter what type of business you're working with.
Interestingly enough, I don't really need to have any particular type of business to help because I find that almost all the problems are the same no matter what business they're in. And these are problems of people, how the people are managed, how the people are enthused, how the people are engaged, how they have a focus and how they have a plan to go by. And they typically have some of that missing. And that's what we try to help them put together. We typically go into a company and talk with the owner, the CEO, the president to get their perspective. After we have the idea of where they want to head, then we start working with the staff, the vice presidents, the key members of the organization to understand what they are all about, what they like, what they don't like individually. We do this individually, one on one for the entire management group of any company. That gives us a perspective of not only what the management wants, but what the managers and the lower level managers are all seeing that sometimes management doesn't see. It always amazes me what management doesn't know is going on underneath them. When I ran a company, I always had the phrase that the walls have ears because no
Mm.
matter what I thought was private, everybody knew.
Yeah.
But a lot of times management doesn't know what the people in the line know and what the managers know. And sometimes that doesn't get up to the top. So we help that get up to the top. And the presidents, the owners, the CEOs are usually quite surprised with the number of things that the management team brings to light that they may not have been aware of.
Wow. Lack of social media management too. Poor knowledge of their costs. There's so much I want to hear. This is amazing.
Well, there's lots of anecdotes I could give.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies don't know what their real costs are.
Yeah.
They have they go by a financial statement that they get maybe once a month, definitely once a year, and they have no other metrics that they're using to determine how good their business is or what they should be doing next with what.
Mm.
For example, I worked with a company in Colorado that was losing millions of dollars. It was a $50 million company losing $7
Yeah.
million a year.
No.
I went out there and realized that they were underselling themselves. They had virtually no competition and they were afraid to raise their prices. They also were taking orders and then canceling them when the customer decided that instead of wanting Model A, they wanted Model B. And so a lot of Model A got dumped in the garbage, so to speak. This was a company that was making live plants. And so if a Home Depot decided they wanted more geraniums and not many petunias, they would cancel the petunia order, add a geranium order, and the company would still have all these petunias that they had made for Home Depot, and they had to put them into the garbage. So
Yep.
we set up some new buying plans, some new requirements that the buyers, the companies buying, couldn't just change orders willy-nilly without some kind of a payment or deduction or having to place an order for something equivalent. So anyway, we turned that within a year from losing 7 million. We didn't quite turn it
Yep.
to positive in a year, but we got rid of probably 6 million of the loss in 1 year.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that is impressive. Oh my goodness, never heard of such a thing. Well, impressive with what you're doing, and you're helping so many companies. And by the way, are you just in the United States, or are you all over the world at this point with your services?
At this point, we really like to stay pretty local in Florida
Florida and
and
Illinois?
Illinois. When I ran companies before, we were worldwide. We had plants all over the world.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, what would you say, what would you have, some advice for a company that maybe is just not profiting and the sales are kind of stagnant?
Well, that's typically why bring people bring us into their company. They're
Yeah.
having some kind of an issue they're dealing with. And we go into the companies, and typically the main thing that we try to do with them is to sit with them to figure out what are their opportunities, what are their weaknesses, and do it in a way that we get participation from the managers so that we
Yeah.
get buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we have typically a group meeting, sometimes without the owner,
Yeah.
because that might influence what the managers are saying.
Got
So
it.
we have this group meeting and we throw on the wall whatever they want to put up there, which are what do you see that's right? What do you see that's wrong? What would you like to change? We throw everything on the wall. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is not put on the wall that somebody says. And everybody has a chance to say whatever they want.
Yeah.
After we put everything on the wall, we put them in categories like human resources problems or shipping problems or manufacturing problems or quality problems or customer service problems. And then the interesting thing that we do, in order not to have people that are the talkers and the more vocal people
Mm-hmm.
control the meeting, we have a anonymous vote on what they think is the most important things that the company should be working on. This gets rid of the politics, this gets rid of nepotism, this gets rid of a lot of biases, and people are heard, and it's what they think as a group should be
Yeah.
done that comes to the top of the list. And that's what we then use to put together a goals and objectives program.
Got it. And what does that goals and objective program look like? How does it work to work with you alongside you? How do you do it?
Well, it's a very interesting process. Over the years, found that goals and objectives by themselves really were not a complete program.
Okay.
Mostly, it was missing who's going to be accountable.
Yeah.
Typically, they would say, okay, well, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to improve quality by 20% this year. Well, who's going to do that? Okay, the quality department's going to do it. The problem with that is that the quality department, there's many people in it. And by the end of the year, people are doing this when it doesn't get done. So one of the things that we do in our setting up the goals and objectives program is to have accountability
Okay.
and only one person being accountable. Because if you have multiple persons being accountable, it's going to be finger pointing at the end of the year when things don't get done. But if you give one person the responsibility, you give them the
Oh,
authority, and you give them the funding
yeah.
and the staffing, the job's going to get done.
Got it. Interesting. All right. Well, also, we're here. If you are just tuning in, just want to remind you we're with the owner, a CEO of Conforti Consulting. And exciting that he's here talking about all this work he's doing. And even we got to go more in depth about lack of social media management because this is huge now, too, right? Before we dive a little further, I just want to know who would you say, inspired you? Did you have a mentor?
Well, I had many mentors, starting with my parents, then
Mm-hmm.
some of the teachers I had in school, and eventually in my work life, I did have a good mentor that really helped me. His name was Mike Mulroy. He was the head of of manufacturing engineering at Motorola when I
Okay.
worked there. And he taught me how to use goals and objectives
Oh, wow.
properly. And I appreciate all that he did in counseling me, coaching me, mentoring me. And it got me started on really using goals and objectives to run a lot of the businesses I ran and the companies I consult for.
Now, in during your time here in the business, can I just ask, is there any, obviously you're very successful business-wise. What would you say overall makes you the happiest?
Making companies succeed. I'm
Wow.
the happiest when I see that a company that I've helped is actually making progress. The company that went from $7 million in loss one year to the next year only losing two to the next year being profitable is where I thrive and where I really feel good.
Oh my goodness, impressive. That is impressive. Wow. All right, and I want to get to also, there's so much more to talk about in our time left. We want to talk about advice for other companies. What about if you have like, your profits are just failing, teams aren't functioning, employees not engaging?
Well, there's another thing that we do is called an operating dynamics survey. And we have all the people, not all the people, but the management people and the key staff take this survey. And what it does is helps pinpoint where issues might be. And the issues that are probably the most difficult to find are what I would call the political situation within the company. There's always politics in a company, and you never know who's got what agenda that's really being foisted without being obvious. So what we do with the operating dynamics survey is we get and find where the problems really lie within the organization dynamics. I'll give you an example of what we did one time. One time I had a president that said I was his problem. And I said, no, I don't think I'm your problem. He said, no, you're the problem. I said, okay, we're not going to have a fight between us. That's not going to get us anywhere. So I brought in an outside consultant before I did consulting and had him do an operations research, operation dynamics survey. He did it. And the interesting thing was we found that the real problem was not me, not him, but his vice presidents. His vice presidents were not sharing the
Yep.
information that they were being given.
Oh my goodness.
And so he then said to the consultant, he said, well, maybe I should, since it wasn't Fred's fault, maybe I should resign. And the consultant said, no, you shouldn't resign. You now know what the problem is. Go fix it. And he did. And he and I retired from the companies about the same time, which was many years later.
Wow. Wow, this is awesome. Oh my goodness. Clearly, for those out there who are just tuning in, I want to remind you we're talking to Fred Conforti, mastermind from consulting company Conforti Consulting. If you haven't heard of him, now you have. But really, your passion for helping companies strive is clearly typical, is not typical. I've never met anyone like you who've done so much, and you really helped so many save millions, make millions, and you are like a, what's the word? You are a inspiration to so many in the field, and it's exciting we get to talk to you here today. Also, I saw some of your YouTube videos as well, and it's always good to talk about, the work that you've done. And can I share a testimonial or two? Because there's a lot of people who say good things about you. Um, Honeywell. All right, we got Gary, who's the president of Honeywell Life Safety Systems, says working with Conforti gave me the opportunity to establish a strong leadership foundation formed from three fundamental principles that he espouses: focus, eliminate the distractions, identify the important few matters that will make a significant impact, then execute relentlessly. Two, urgency, don't wait, do something and do it today. Three, value, make sure that you get maximum benefit efficiently from everything you do and from every penny spent. Always question why and how something was done. These three principles apply to all business matters, including, but not limited to, strategy, operations, problem solving, and growth, as they are a way of thinking and acting. Here's someone else, Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer from Architectural Hardware Group, says, I've worked with Fred for over a period of 9 months where I've worked for an acquiring company of Recognition Source Wireless Access, a company Fred founded and ran. Fred recognized a market opportunity, was the pioneer of wireless locks serving the electronic access control market. Since that time, many major players have entered this space, building on the market he started. Fred was not only a supportive and knowledgeable partner in the transition, but he was a great mentor to me during and after the acquisition. Fred has a rare combination of entrepreneurial acumen and you yet can work in and understand the needs of large organizations. He is an excellent leader and advisor. And it's stories like that that clearly, um, that's why people are calling and working with you. Did you want to share another experience of a business owner or two?
Well, um, yes, there was a company that I consulted for that made um, tanks, tanks for holding fuel. And these tanks were failing. They had to pass a test with Underwriters Lab where they pressurized the tank. And if the tank changed shape, when they depressurized it, the tank had to go back to the original shape.
Mm-hmm.
I went in and looked at what was going on. Long
Yeah.
story short, the purchasing agent decided to save some money and buy some cheaper steel. He bought
Oh,
some cheaper steel,
yeah.
and the cheaper steel didn't have the same modulus of, oh, I forget the name of it. It's a strength of materials term. And um, because he used it and didn't
Yeah.
nobody knew it, they started failing. And we had to then figure out why they were failing, realized after investigation that it was this cheaper steel that was not working. And we had to go back to the original steel to get it to be able to pass the underwriters laboratories test and get the company back on track.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Well, we still got 4 more minutes left in the show. What else did you want to share? I know it's our first time together. There's still a lot to get to know about you, the way you work, and how you're helping so many corporations. So, anything, how did you kind of want to sum up for today?
Well, I'd like to just say to anybody who's interested in making their company the best it can be, that they need to have a plan that they're going by.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan should be something along the lines of setting goals and objectives, but doing it with accountability and other things that we've incorporated into something I call games. Games is goals, accountability, metrics, evaluation, which means monitoring what's going on, and then celebrating successes. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're done with that, you think you're all done with that program. No, you're not, because you have to start all over again. It's a continuous process for your company to continually get better and better. So you could look at my book I wrote. It's called Beyond Goals, Beyond Lean, and it has all of this information in it. It's a good guideline to setting up a plan and how to execute a plan and doing it in a way that covers more than just a goals and objectives program.
Awesome. Awesome. What else? What else?
What else? Well, you could always contact me at Conforti Consulting. We'd love to help any company that wants help.
And that's conforticonsulting.com, correct?
Conforticonsulting.com, right?
Perfect. Well, we're excited that you're here, ecstatic that you're joining us, hailing from beautiful Illinois and Florida all in one. Any big projects you're working on, you can give us an inside scoop to? Any advice out there to some of our listeners, business
Well,
owners?
I'm helping a company right now in Chicago with their sales program. They have hired several new salespeople and they wanted them to be trained. So we're doing a sales training program for them that's kind of based on the Xerox program and the Sandler method. So
Okay.
we've kind of looked at what's the best of both of those and use that to get their team ready to sell the kind of products they make.
Awesome. Awesome. Exciting stuff. So this is just ongoing and ongoing. Any vacations coming up? Anything fun?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going to Europe next month. We're going to go to Paris and then take a train down to Milan and then go drive from Milan to Rome and then back to Chicago.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. That's exciting. So you're a hard worker, but you're going to take some time out for yourself. You need to recharge, rejuvenate, right? You have a great day. Thank you so much for being here and looking forward to the next time we get to connect. It's been a pleasure having you, Fred. Don't forget
Thank
Fred
you. Same,
Conforti. We'll talk soon.
same here. Bye, Jill.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great day.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.